I'm looking forward to the responses to the questions that we've both sent to Mr. Martin. And before we go into the substance of the hearing, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a member of my staff whose last day is tomorrow. Michael May served as professional staff and head researcher for nominations since 2022. He's worked on more than 200 nominees who've come before the committee. If you were confirmed as a federal judge, U.S. attorney, or U.S. marshal since 2022, there is a good chance that Michael has read everything you've ever posted on social media. In addition to his thorough work, he is much appreciated for his quick wit, willingness to translate Gen Z speak for the rest of my staff. In all seriousness, he's a real professional, and he's helped this committee fulfill its constitutional duty. Our loss is the gain of UC Berkeley Law School, Senator Padilla, so he's headed out to California, his home state, to begin law school this fall. Please join me in thanking Michael for his service to the committee. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you and my colleagues for considering my concerns regarding the nomination of Ed Martin to serve as U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. He is seeking to be the lead prosecutor for the Department of Justice in the District of Columbia, a substantial assignment. I understand that Chairman Grassley has submitted questions to Mr. Martin in response to the issues that I raised in a previous meeting, and I have joined him in that effort. We take our responsibility to advise and consent very seriously. I understand Mr. Martin will submit responses during the April recess so that we have an opportunity to review them before we vote on whether to hold a hearing on his nomination. Mr. Martin has a long record of objectionable statements and conduct. I would like to take a few minutes to provide some examples to my colleagues. Mr. Martin has repeatedly attacked law enforcement officers who kept us safe as members of the Senate and staff during the January 6th riot, and the assistant U.S. attorneys who were assigned to prosecute the rioters who brutally attacked police officers. Mr. Martin was at the U.S. Capitol on that day when he posted social media, and I quote, "Like Mardi Gras in D.C. today, love, faith, and joy, ignore fake news." Mr. Martin had the audacity to call Michael Fanone, a 20-year veteran of the Metropolitan Police Department who was nearly killed on January 6, quote, "a fake cop," words of Ed Martin. When leaders of the Oath Keepers, a domestic violent extremist group, were prosecuted for seditious conspiracy for their role in planning January 6, Mr. Martin responded, quote, "Oath Keepers are all of us," close quote. Mr. Martin also has advocated for, quote, "less judgment on somebody who hits a cop." That is an appalling statement, especially for someone who's asking this committee to approve his nomination to be the top law enforcement official in the nation's capital. He has repeatedly attacked prosecutors who were assigned to work on January 6 case, calling them, quote, "terrorists," and stating, and I quote, "when I see these prosecutors, I shun them. I ostracize them socially. I say about them, they are despicable people who decided to do something wrong," end of quote. We also need to hear from Mr. Martin about his close relationship with Timothy Hale-Cusanelli, a January 6 rioter and anti-Semitic racist Nazi sympathizer. You can see his photo. I will not repeat the vile things Mr. Hale-Cusanelli has said about Jewish people, black people, and other minorities. These slurs are well documented and extensive. At a time when we are expelling students from the United States for participating in protests where the question is raised as to whether their statements were anti-Semitic, at a time when we are basically deciding that this committee is going on record about the seriousness of this charge of anti-Semitism, to think of some of the things that Mr. Martin has done for his pal, Timothy Hale-Cusanelli, is outrageous. Mr. Martin is well aware of Mr. Hale-Cusanelli's record. In fact, he has excused Mr. Hale-Cusanelli for dressing up like Hitler, quote, saying that he was just goofing around. Just last year, Mr. Martin presented Mr. Hale-Cusanelli with an award. Where was the award presented by Mr. Martin to Mr. Hale-Cusanelli? At the Trump Bedminster Club in New Jersey, at which this place is where Martin said, quote, of Cusanelli, quote, an extraordinary man, an extraordinary leader, this man who dresses up like Adolf Hitler. He continued, and I quote, it's one of the goals of many is to make sure that the world, and especially America, hears more from Tim Hale because he's so extraordinary, quote unquote, Ed Martin. Just last month, while serving as interim U.S. Attorney, Mr. Martin attended an event with Hale-Cusanelli, members of the Oath Keepers, and other January 6 offenders, including some whose cases are still on appeal. At this event, Mr. Martin compared the prosecution of January 6 rioters with the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. This false equivalency is alarming, harmful, disrespectful, and disgusting. Another speaker at this event was Douglas Mackey, who has said, quote, women are children with the right to vote. And another quote from Mr. Mackey, black people will believe anything they read, and we let them vote? Why? Question mark. At the event end, Ed Martin praised Mackey as, quote, a leader of people who sees what happens and wants to do something about it. I am describing the friends and political and professional acquaintances of the man who wants to be the chief prosecutor for the U.S. Department of Justice in the District of Columbia. Mr. Martin must answer for these offensive comments that he's made. Recounting his tenure at CNN, Mr. Martin said, quote, I got fired because of the crazy black ladies on CNN that demanded I be fired because I didn't take their nonsense. The fact that Mr. Martin feels the need to note the race and gender of individuals who cross him speaks volumes about his temperament and character. And just last year, he said in an interview, and I quote, you show me a Jewish American who feels good about the Democratic administration, I'll show you someone who is not really Jewish, end of quote. How dare Mr. Martin pass judgment on someone else's religion? Ed Martin's history raises serious questions about whether he should ever be given the authority of the U.S. Attorney for District of Columbia. One of Martin's first official acts after his appointment as temporary was to fire numerous prosecutors simply because they were assigned and handled January 6 cases. Less than a month into his tenure, Martin sent a threatening letter to Georgetown University Law Center, claiming that the school, quote, continues to teach and promote DEI. The dean of the law school, William Traynor, rightfully responded, and I quote, given the First Amendment's protection of a university's freedom to determine its own curriculum and how to deliver it, the constitutional violation behind this threat is clear, as is the attack on the university's mission as a Jesuit and Catholic institution, end of quote. The top prosecutor in the nation's capital should be focused on fighting crime and terrorism, not monitoring the curriculum of local law schools. I'll continue to review his record. I can't wait for his answers to the questions, and I hope that members of this committee on both sides of the table will take it seriously when we made that pledge, bipartisan pledge, to do our best to stop anti-Semitism and look honestly at the record of Ed Martin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I hope our members can get here so we can vote on the nomination. Senator Hirano.